Okay, let's begin. Welcome everyone to the Okayama University Japan Times SDG Virtual Global Circuit Academic Seminar organized by the Institute of Global Human Resource Development. I am Dr. Nobuyuki Kambara, a professor and vice director of the Institute, and I'll be your host today. Tonight is the first night in our series of webinars. Each webinar covers a topic related to Japanese culture or the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and sometimes both. Tonight's presentation is called A Farm Story, How Our Small-Scale Organic Vegetable Farm Plays a Role in Supporting the UN SDGs. Eva Richardson and Zenryu Owatari will tell us how they got started with organic farming in Japan, and will explain the methods they use and the reasons for using them. We have included time for questions at the end of the presentation. We hope that you will ask many questions in order to generate a good discussion. At this time, I will turn it over to Eva Richardson and Zenryu Owatari.
Thank you very much, Kambara sensei.
よろしくお願いします。
So welcome to everybody who is joining us. We're really happy to be here. We're a little nervous because it's the first session, first webinar. And we're up in the mountains in Kyoto. It's very cold up here where we are. We're in our home at our farm up in Kyoto. And like Kambara sensei said, please open the chat function and make sure you can add questions at any point during the presentation. And we'll try to answer the questions either during or at the end of our presentation.
Okay. Yeah, we hope you enjoy our story.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now, so please just give me a moment. Okay, so I think we'll get started. So my name is Eva Richardson.
And my name is Zenryu Owatari.
And we are the owners and operators of Hello Farm Organics, like I said, in Kyoto. And today, our main focus, like Kambara sensei said, is we were asked to think about how our practice as farmers can connect with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. All right, let's move on here. So a little bit about who we are before we launch into the farm. I'm Canadian, and Zenryu is, of course.
Yeah, I'm Japanese, native Japanese. Yeah, and then, yeah, please introduce.
Yeah, I was a farmer in Canada before I came to Japan for 7 years, but I'm also a certified teacher, elementary school teacher. So I currently, for the last 12 years in Japan, I've been teaching at international schools, but we've also been farming for the past 10, is that right? 10 years
10
now?
years together.
Together here, which I wasn't expecting when I came to Japan, but here we are farming. How about you, Zenryu?
Yes, I'm Buddhist monk also, and I've been practicing the Zen meditation in a monastic temple in Los Angeles, United States, and moved back to Japan, year 2006, around that time. And whole life, I'm growing the vegetables. Yeah, I'm really interested growing the vegetables, and also in the temple, we grow our own vegetable and we cook together. And we started farm in Ibaraki Prefecture in Japan. Actually, no, I started. I started professionally the organic farming, but after the big earthquake, and Fukushima nuclear disaster, we worry about radiation, and we evacuated to Kyoto and started our farm 10 years ago, 2011. And the big purpose for starting was grow safe and healthy food for ourselves and for others. So we want to produce good, healthy, safe vegetable for others.
Yeah, which leads well into what our goals are. So our first, can you go to the next one because I can see. Our first goal and philosophy is to eat safe and healthy food. It's really a simple concept for us. We, especially after Fukushima, we just couldn't know what was safe to eat because of the radiation. And so we were really motivated to grow our own food and then extend that out to the customer, to the community. So our second goal is to provide our customers with safe and healthy food. Okay. And then another philosophy, our goal of ours, is to live in harmony with the environment by nurturing biodiversity in the soil and in our garden. Now, this keyword biodiversity, it really means an abundance of life, lots of diverse living life forms, not only in the garden, but in the soil and all around us. And we'll talk more about why that's so important on an organic farm later, but that from the beginning has been one of our goals.
Yeah, for example, we like to be as self-sufficient as possible by growing all our own vegetables as much as possible. Yeah, and
so our goal is?
Yeah, to run healthy, peaceful, environmentally sustainable farm and lifestyle. So mostly we grow vegetables self-sufficient. We are doing. Past many years, we don't buy most vegetables.
Yeah, it feels strange to buy vegetables now because we have all our own vegetables. It's so nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we often to train future farmers and share our knowledge and passion is like we often host young people on our farm to teach them about how to grow organically. For example, we have trained apprentices to manage their own farm. We have also hosted school groups, and especially for that, we feel really important for educate for environment for children. And this picture is Eva's school students. We invite them to study here.
Maybe a highlight for us is having the kids here and teaching them about farming and just growing food. They often don't know anything about where carrots come from. So it's such a highlight for us. Okay. And then our goals and our final goal in philosophy is we like to grow resilient, diverse heirloom vegetables. We'll talk more about that a little later, but basically heirloom vegetable means old, ancient varieties that you don't see. So they're not common anymore around the world, but they're there and their genetics are resilient. And I'll talk more a bit about that later as well. But there's many reasons to grow these old varieties of heirloom vegetables. And it's an exciting change we're seeing in the market as well. We're also committed to growing organically, strictly organically, and we'll talk about why and what those practices look like. And of course, our last one is to save our own seeds. We're really committed to that, and we're already up to, I think, 40 varieties or something that we save our own seed for.
So, and also, can explain. Also, we grow only we use only heritage, heirloom seeds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we might say heirloom or heritage. They're kind of interchangeable. So if you hear heirloom or heritage vegetables from us, it means old varieties of locally, they're like local old varieties.
And also, all vegetable, we can save that seed also.
Yeah. Okay. So Kambara Sensei asked us to think about, well, how do our goals and philosophies connect with sustainable development goals that the United Nations laid out? You're probably familiar with this picture. There's 17 goals by the United Nations. So what we did is we went through and we picked out the ones that connect. And how they connect to our different goals. And so we'll explain a little bit about that. But to be honest, there were too many connections and we can't talk about them all in only an hour. So we are highlighting a few, which I think says a lot about organics. So one of our big conclusions that we made during making this is that organic farming techniques mitigate climate change, which means they help reduce the effects of climate change or reverse climate change in some situations. They help build food security for communities, and they support a more sustainable and regenerative approach to agriculture. And we'll revisit this at the end again, but it's been really a great experience for us to put together this presentation because we realized like we're able to support the United Nations goals, and it's kind of an exciting thing to realize. Okay, so the first thing we'll talk about, and we put it first because it is the most important thing for us that we have found in our many years of farming, is to nurture biodiversity in the soil, which really just means building living soil. And we found 3 connections to the United Nations goals: responsible consumption and production, it mitigates climate change, and it supports life on land, as you can see in this slide. And like I said, biodiversity really means a range of a variety of living things living in the soil. So let's dive into that. For me, I might get a little excited because this is such an exciting topic for us. And for me, I get so excited when I share it. So first thing is, when we started farming in Japan, we didn't know you can measure soil bacteria. And I didn't realize this was a possibility until 2016 was when it came to our attention. Who helped us find this?
This is a shared lab for Japan, that company. They support, later on we can explain about them too. And they are supporting organic new farmers, and also that time they care about level of the radiation in the soil.
Oh, of the radiation too. So we'll share a bit more about Share the Love for Japan, but this organization really wants, like Zenju-san said, they really want to support new farmers. So they found a company in Tsukuba, Ibaraki Prefecture called DGC Technology Inc. And they paid for our very first soil test in 2016 to check for the bacteria levels in the soil. And we were so excited to find out what is it? What does it mean? How does it work? So let me explain it to you. You can see on the picture here, there are 2, let's see if I can get my pointer going. Here we go. All right, so there are 2 tables. And these individual red dots, they're called wells. So what we did was we collected 20 different samples of soil from around our garden at about 30 centimeters deep. And we mixed it all together, sent it to DGC Technology in Ibaraki Prefecture. And then they created these wells. I guess it would be like a petri dish if you're in a lab. And they could calculate the amount of active beneficial bacteria per 1 gram of soil. So in the 2016 sample, you can see there's quite a few red cells, which shows active bacteria levels. And apparently we had 1.25 million active beneficial bacteria per gram of soil at that time. The very next year we did it again, and look at it's a lot more. We had 1.5 million beneficial detectable active bacteria per 1 gram of soil. And we thought, okay, great, that's exciting, but what does that mean? So what? You have
this 10,000?
No, that's 1.2 million.
It's 1.2 million. I think it's more than like 1 million. It's a good soil.
It's already good.
It's a good soil.
That's right.
That's approved by the.
Yeah, so we'll go to the next slide. It shows that. So this is the information chart that they sent us. And basically it says if you have between 1 and 1.3 million active bacteria per gram, it already means you have great soil for producing vegetables. But we had 1.5 million. So basically we have super soil is what they said. And then we thought, okay, well, that's great. But you know, again, why, how is that useful knowledge? And how did we get that? Well, they told us that if you have super soil, you may not even need to add compost or any nutrition. You may not need to add fertilizer, calcium, ash. You may not need to add anything to the soil, because what we've learned is that bacteria in soil have a relationship with roots. So this is the bacteria, this is the roots. They work together and they actually produce nutrition, or they not produce, they allow the roots to access nutrition from the soil, especially carbon. So you may not even need to add anything to your soil if you've got super high levels of beneficial bacteria. But what was really cool to find out is that of all that testing that we did here in on this slide, it's actually only 1% of the possible bacteria. So you're really only testing 1% of all the bacteria that's possibly there, meaning we don't know very much yet about the huge diversity of living organisms in the soil. This is only a small portion of it, and even just that is so beneficial. So it's really exciting to find this out. So the next question was, well, how did we do it? Right? And oh yeah, they sent you something.
Yeah, can I explain a little bit more about?
Yes.
And so they compare about soil from the conventional farmers' soil and then organic farmers' soil. And of course, at conventional farmers, it's a lower level of the bacteria. And that meaning is soil doesn't have the nutrition. So it's a vegetable is not really growing very well also. That affect a lot of effect.
Yeah. And later on, actually, I think I have a slide that talks about that bacteria sequesters carbon. So it holds the carbon and allows the plants to use that carbon.
So this is only numbers of the bacteria, but this how to result about this soil condition. Yeah. So it says picture too. You know, we don't have picture on this one, but the picture is amazing. They have an amazing technology, take bacteria pictures in the soil. And that picture is almost like a universe, you know, so many stars, a million of stars. We cannot count the stars. And if you look at evening, you look at the stars, yes.
So are you saying there's a universe in the soil?
Universe is in the soil too.
Isn't that awesome? I love that. All right, so tell us about this picture, Sindhu.
Okay, this level, this level is because we have a good amount of the bacteria in our soil. We approved by GC technology to use this sticker. It tells our buyers we have nutritious and excellent soil. And myself, I feel this is the most important part of the organic farming. Yeah, this, but that's organic farmers. Of course, many organic farmers has a good soil, but this is for the approved for the good soil.
So we call it a soil mark. So we can put this sticker on all our produce now. This picture is, they're called garlic scapes. So it's the garlic flower that comes out in spring. It's kind of curly, you can see. So we can put the soil mark sticker on all of our produce now, because, and just to start educating people, because people don't know that quality soil is really important. And now we can even use it as a marketing tool to market. Okay. So the question is, how did we do it? How did we get so much beneficial bacteria in our soil? Well, one of the really cool things we learned from our neighbors, actually, is called, what is this in Japanese again?
Kuntan.
Kuntan, which is biochar in English. And this is really new to us. Only in the last few years, we've really been using it a lot. So basically, biochar is, if you look at the left picture here, you start with the husk, the shell on a rice. So each grain of rice has a shell. And when you take the shells off, they're considered a byproduct. And you can use them in many ways in the garden. But for biochar, we want to slowly roast them. It's like, think of it as cooking them over a long time, but not burning all the way till it's ash. So you can see in the picture here, Zenju-san is using what's called a biochar chimney, and you make a little fire in the bottom, and you put the rice husks around the bottom, a lot of them, as you can see in this picture. And over about 5 hours, it slowly roasts the rice husk until it becomes black. But it still has its shape. But it's super black. What could you compare it to? Like a charcoal?
if you cook more, if you burn more, becomes ash.
So we don't want to overcook them or over roast it. And this is what the final product looks like. You can see in the picture here. This is basically roasted rice husk. And I was so curious about, well, what's so good about biochar? So I found this website called the US Biochar Initiative, and they say that biochar's immense surface area and complex pore structure, like 1 gram of this can have a surface area of over 1,000 square yards. That's a really huge surface area. But that surface area provides a secure habitat for microorganisms like bacteria and fungi. Fungi is like mushrooms. Certain fungi form symbiotic relationships with plant root fibers, and this allows for greater nutrient uptake by plants. I was talking earlier about the importance of working together, the roots and the bacteria and sometimes fungi work together to allow greater nutrient uptake, meaning the plant can absorb and access more nutrition and basically grow tastier, healthier vegetables, right? So biochar is kind of it's a bit of a new frontier in, I would say, Western culture. This is pretty new. In Japan, it's been around for a long time.
Yes, this technique is like we learned from the really old farmer in this area, and they are using for a long time.
Yeah.
And not only, this is just rice husk, example is rice husk biochar, but there's many biochar also, no? That's even wood chips.
Oh yeah, wood chips, yeah. You can, we might experiment with wheat someday, wheat husk, what might be interesting. But basically you're just creating surface area for bacteria to flourish and beneficial bacteria to grow, and then putting it in the soil. And that is going to help your roots, your plant roots, to flourish. Okay, so what else do we do to improve the bacteria in our soils?
Yes, our main compost is called weed compost. We are making from the weed. We cut weed and stack together with nuka. Nuka is a rice bran, and make a fermentation faster. And that's a lot of nutrition for the soil. There's many nutrients need in soil. Like example, like nitrogen and phosphorus.
Yeah.
And weed compost is from the natural material, and I believe this is best, really good material for the soil. Okay. And can I explain about this technique to how to make?
Sure.
We stack and we put rice bran and stack, and then it's become fermentation. They make heat, and then become like 40 degrees, 50 degrees, and break up all the weeds, and finally become almost like a soil. But we keep turning and make oxygen to the air, and that's how to make also. So I'm Zen Buddhist monk, and I'm cook also, and I make pickles too, Japanese pickles. And Japanese pickles is full of the bacteria. It's a good bacteria, and really good for the body, especially good for the intestine, almost like a yogurt. Western people eat yogurt good for the intestine.
Yeah.
So making compost is almost like a pickling.
So I like the comparison. I often describe the bacteria in soil as like similar to the bacteria in your gut. Like you need to have a healthy body, you need bacteria in your system. To have healthy soil, you need bacteria in your soil. And Zenju-san, you were talking about how you're a cook, right? So yes. Can you talk about this one?
Okay. Yeah, weed compost is very important on our farm, but also compost all our kitchen waste in this box. Right?
I lost my pointer. This one. We put our kitchen waste in here. Yeah.
And we're trying to use only vegetable material, and we don't use any animal kind of materials, which is perfect because we are vegan and we eat only organic vegetable, and all the compost making in this box too. Can you explain it a little bit more?
Well, just, like the kitchen scraps and all the wheat compost, we turn it into soil. And then the next picture explains what we do with it, of course. You can see we add it to the soil every time we put seeds, every time we plant seedlings.
Like seedlings, called transplanting. It's into this ground. Yes, every time before we plant, we put materials in the ground.
Yeah, including the biochar that we mentioned earlier. You put a little bit of biochar, so you can add these amendments to the soil directly. I'm going to move along, looking at the time, okay? Move along. Another thing we do with our compost is we make compost tea, and it's not for drinking. Don't drink compost tea. But you can see this is a potato bag, like a mesh, and we put the compost, just looks like soil in there, and then we stick it in these buckets of water, and then we can use that water, which is full of bacteria and wonderful nutrition, and we just water plants in the soil. Maybe some plants boost a little extra nutrition at the end of their life. So we often make compost tea as well.
Also, you make the worm compost.
Oh yeah, worm compost too. Yes, I have a worm composter, like a smaller one for my class. I do with my students. Okay, we also add other things.
We add like rice husks before the make biochar. Also, like this picture is what we cover, keep moist the soil, and calciums from shellfish, and wood ash, and EM liquid, which is called effective microorganism mix of bacteria and yeast and fungi. And rice bran also. Rice bran has a lot of nitrogen and bug compost. And we in Japan we have so many like a tree. We have a lot of natures in mountains, trees, and then bug compost is available every like farm stores.
Yeah, like Conan and Komedi, you can get bark compost everywhere.
Yeah. For example, abura-kasu. Yeah, abura doesn't say abura-kasu here, but
yeah, here seed.
Oil seed shells.
Yeah.
Sometimes sesame seed byproduct of making sesame oil. So the leftover shells are full of nutrition like nitrogen. And wood ash controls soil pH. And rice bran is also great for nitrogen. We don't use any animal manures, like cow manures and stuff, chicken manures. We try to not use.
Yeah, we've moved away from using animal manures as a compost just because we have access also to a lot of other really beneficial amendments for the soil.
Also, can explain about animal manures also. Sometimes we have to careful too. If it's in a natural, like organically growing, the chickens and cows, it's okay. But most farmers, conventional, the animal farmers, they use chemicals to feed the cows and chickens, and that's why we don't use. We avoid.
It's actually really hard to find organic animal byproducts in Japan. Just because there aren't that many organic animal products in Japan anyway. Okay, yeah, okay. So another thing we do to improve the soil and thinking about bacteria is we do companion planting. So these are examples in the pictures here of companion plants. Basically, a companion is like a friend. So think of it as these two plants are friends. This is a marigold flower. And of course, that's a watermelon. If you plant them side by side, but really close, they help each other grow in different ways. Some companion plants produce, like the roots actually mix together and they help each other grow bigger and stronger. But they also create a good space for bacteria. Marigold, in this picture, actually is a natural insecticide. Insects don't like marigold, especially like aphids and like, what's aphid in Nihongo?
Aburamushi.
Aburamushi, like they don't like marigold. So we plant marigold everywhere because it's a natural pest control for insects, but not bees. Bees love marigold, and it's good because bees help, of course, pollinate all of our crops. But another example of two plants you could put together is like peas. You might put peas with something green like kale. So peas produce their own nitrogen. And of course, something green like kale needs a lot of nitrogen to grow big and strong. So you might try planting them together and then they can help support each other. In this photo, we've got head lettuce with green onion. And of course, onion is a root crop. Lettuce is a leafy crop. So they're opposite families and they can help support each other and keep pests away. Or, and even in some cases, it just helps keep the moisture, the water in the soil. And of course, fungi and bacteria need a lot of moisture to stay active and thriving. So there's a lot of reasons reasons to grow companion plants together, and there's books and books on the topic. Lots of information.
We're still learning about this companion planting techniques. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I have a book called Carrots Love Tomatoes. Apparently you can grow carrots right beside tomatoes that grow up. So I haven't done it yet, but it sounds like a really interesting match.
Yeah, farming study is a life study.
Forever learning. There's always something new to learn. Okay, another thing we do to keep the soil quality really, really great is crop planting and our crop rotation. This is not a great picture, I'm sorry, but if you could look closely, it's a big map of all of our gardens, and we map out every year what we grow, when, what we added to the soil, how long it took, the condition. So we have detailed records of every single garden bed and what we grew in it. And there's a bit of a rotation that organic farmers have followed forever, that it's a good practice. You can see here, if you grow a leaf vegetable like lettuce, the next thing you grow after that should be something like a fruit, like perhaps peppers. And then after fruit, you might grow a root vegetable like daikon radish. And then after that's finished, you grow a legume, which is like a beans or peas, let's say edamame. And then you go back to the rotation. So after edamame, you could grow another leaf vegetable, maybe arugula or pakchi, cilantro. So it's a bit of a cycle. And the reason we do this rotation is because each crop requires different nutrition. So here, fruit crops follow leafy greens because fruit crops need a lot of phosphorus. Root crops follow fruits because they need potassium. And then legumes follow roots because legumes make their own nitrogen, which is great for the next leafy crop after that. So if organic farmers keep that in mind and have a rotation for their crops, you're not growing the same thing year after year. And this is a problem on big, large scale conventional farms, especially like in North America. Sometimes they grow, corn for 10 years in a row on the same land every year. And that just depletes the soil of all the nutrition that crop needs, which means you have to add chemical fertilizers. You have to add chemicals so that it will keep growing and you'll get the same amount of fruits and vegetables. But if you do a rotation, they naturally, the roots and the crops naturally replace some of those nutritional needs on their own, just through rotation. And it keeps the soil much healthier and stronger. Do you want to add anything or shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Another thing we do for soil is green manures. So what are we growing here in this picture, Zendu?
This is rye.
Rye, okay. Where's rye? Oh, yes. Here we go, rye.
Yeah, technique of the green manure. We grow this one and then we cut it up really small and then into the soil.
So
that helps.
So rye is like normally you would wait till the seeds grow and then harvest the seeds, right? Like oats, wheat, and different legumes. But if you're doing a green manure, you don't wait for the crops to grow fully mature with seeds. You cut it off before that. And like Zenji-san said, you turn it into the soil.
Yeah, it's a young leaf has more nutrition too.
Like sprouts. Sprouts have a lot of nutrition. So we cut it off and we mix it into the soil. And then that gives the soil a lot of benefits, like it controls the weeds. It gives more nutrition. It's like adding humus or organic material. So like this greenhouse that you're looking at is very sandy soil. So often when you have sandy soil, you want to add some humus or organic material so that it's not so sandy. So that's what green manures are good for. It also adds carbon to the soil, which all plants need to grow. Okay.
Whole garden kind of composting.
Yeah, like whole garden composting. Think of it that way. And instead of adding any fertilizers, this acts as a manure, but it's green manure instead of like regular manure. Okay. Okay. One other thing we're trying more and more is no-till farming. We are not a no-till farm, but we're trying it bed by bed. And no-till means we don't turn the soil and add more nutrition. Instead, we leave the soil and we just plant directly into whatever was there last time. And the reason we do that is to protect this here, the rhizosphere. The rhizosphere is that layer under the soil where fungi and the roots of plants meet. So the rhizosphere is full of active, bacteria, fungi, and living things. And if you are constantly turning that with a machine, a rototiller or a tractor, you're actually breaking apart all those beneficial connections that are happening in the rhizosphere. So the philosophy of no-till farming is to leave that layer under the soil intact and you plant into it. And if you're interested in learning more about this, because it is a fascinating study, go to this podcast right here. It's called The Ruminant. Sorry, I can't see that. Oops. Go to The Ruminant, and that podcast has a whole episode what's in the references, the episode on microbial roots of life and health. It is excellent, and it just talks all about all the benefits of having that rhizosphere and the benefits of that in the soil. Okay, so what's with this picture?
Yeah. So as you can see, if you concentrate on healthy, nutritious soil, your plant will be really healthy and strong. And like this picture, you will see that the left one is soybean.
This is soybean
here, and then the next one is eggplant. It's really tall and healthy, looks really healthy plant. And then right side is this okra, and red stem is called red okra. And last year, somehow got really tall. It's 3-meter high.
We couldn't reach the okra. We had to bend the plant. They were so tall this year. So this is one of our gardens that has the super soil that we tested. And you can see just in the picture, it was so lush and green this year. And it did so well. It produced a lot of vegetables this year. Okay. All right, so next, we spent most of this presentation is about the soil. So the rest are just shorter bits. So thank you for your patience. That was a lot about soil, but really is a priority. It's the most important part of organic farming, really. So another way that we support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is to nurture biodiversity in the garden, not just underground in the soil, but the actual garden, the plants, the animals. And by doing that, we're supporting life on land, climate action, responsible production and consumption, and it's reducing hunger in the world. We never spray pesticides, chemical pesticides on anything. And the main reason, obviously, we're organic, so we can't, but also the problem is there's so many beneficial animals, living things in the garden that we might kill if you spray. And I have this word here, indiscriminately. It's a huge word, but it means if you spray, let's say for aphids, aburamushi, you might also be killing bees, ants, dragonflies, and other beneficial insects, because some of these pest killers kill many things at once, not just one thing. Now, some of them do just control one thing at a time, like they're meant just for aburamushi, aphids, but many of them kill many other beneficial animals, what I like to call garden helpers. So here are some examples of some of the garden helpers that we protect every single day.
Yeah, imori, left one, imori is a Japanese salamanders. that eats slugs and bugs. And right one is it's a special frog called a Mori aogairu, the forest green tree frog. It's a protected species in Japan. And they eat a lot of insects to protect our gardens. And we have many enemies.
Garden enemies.
Garden So this frog lives only near fresh water, super clean water, and lays their eggs in the tambo. It's a rice field. And so this area, we have many rice fields, this area. And this area is really famous for the good rice because the water is really clean and really fresh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, these are really special frogs. They're protected under Japanese government. So it's really nice to see them everywhere in the garden.
And this is the ladybugs. Yeah, ladybugs is a really popular, famous for the especially eating the aburamushi aphids. And they can eat 5,000 aphids during their short life. So we are always happy to see ladybugs in there, and also the larvae.
This is a larva.
Larva. Yeah, our in the garden. Yeah, sometimes we are excited to see them. Mm-hmm.
So if you see this, it doesn't look like a ladybug, but this is like the teenager, the young adolescent version of a ladybug. If you see those ever on trees or in your garden, don't touch them. Those are the assassins. Those are the ones that eat most of the aburamushi, the aphids. Okay, another garden helper this is called a parasitic wasp. And believe it or not, even those scary wasps, some of them eat caterpillars. And a lot of people don't know that. They just think they're scary, but this wasp was putting that caterpillar in, it's a mud house that it had laid its eggs in. And they put the caterpillar in there for the larva when they hatch to eat. So it's like pretty cool. But we love seeing these parasitic wasps around because they really help clean up this is a cabbage moth caterpillar. And of course, what's this called again?
Praying mantis.
Praying mantis. Yeah. What's in Nihongo?
Kamakiri.
Kamakiri. They are super helpers too. They eat lots of bugs and insects. And then of course we have lizards, lots of frogs, and dragonflies eat a lot. They eat their own body weight in mosquitoes every day. So they're really helpful as well. And then
earthworms and beetles, like this kuwagata, English called stag beetle.
Stag beetle. Yeah.
All live in our garden in build soil.
But if you're spraying pesticides, insecticides, fungicides all the time, all these animals, they can't live there. And they're all helping us. So we really are strong advocates to please, don't spray if you can avoid it, especially our pollinators. I didn't put any references, but there is a global problem right now with our bee populations are dying around the world because of neonics. Neonics are, basically it's a chlorine-based pesticide that gets sprayed on plants, on crops, and it kills a lot of bees.
We have a huge problem. Some like advanced countries already, like some European countries, that they quit.
They banned these
but still
chemicals.
In Japan, still we're using that. And then sometimes some rice farmers, they use that. So that's why we have not enough population of the bees.
Even we had a beehive in our garden for 2 years to try and attract the bees to come and stay. We even put like a pheromone chip to try and attract the bees. We couldn't because the neighbors still spray some of these really harsh chemicals. So
Japanese called nikochiraido. Nicotinamide is the name of the pesticides.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about it, maybe we can add some more information later, but I didn't put any of that. But this is a big area of study and of global concern for pollinators right now. Okay, another way we support the biodiversity in the garden is, of course, just the plants themselves. We mentioned in the beginning that one of our goals is to grow heirloom vegetable varieties, which means old or ancient, localized vegetable varieties that maybe are unusual. Like maybe you've never seen this. What's this one called?
Koshin daikon is in English called watermelon radish.
Watermelon radish. Like, look at how beautiful it is. But a lot of people don't know about these because they're not like super popular yet. But I think that there's a movement happening to try and eat more heirloom and older varieties of vegetables. And the reasons for that is they are locally adapted, delicious, beautiful, and down here it says genetically resilient. And genetic resilience really just means their genetics are really strong to survive in the local climate, in the local environment, against pests and climate change. So here's a quote for you from a great article in National Geographic, which I recommend you read. By growing heirloom and other non-commercial varieties, small farms bolster biodiversity and increase food security. With only 12 plants and 5 animal species making up 75% of what the world eats, food systems are vulnerable to natural disasters and disease outbreak. I find that shocking that most of the world, 75% of what we eat is only 12 varieties of plants. And that's unbelievable when there are literally millions of varieties of vegetables out there that are unheard of or old or are lost or forgotten. So this is an important part of developing food security through organics, but also for the United Nations goals. Should I move along? Okay. Like, you want to show this example of a heirloom variety?
Yeah, this, first of all, this explain this is we do the workshop for the miso, make miso workshop. And that's miso is come from main ingredients of the soybean. And especially this area, famous soybean called tamba, kuro is a black soybean. And yeah, we make miso, and we try to make preserved food from our vegetable too.
And this is a really old variety. It's a heirloom variety of soybean from the Tamba area of, is that Kyoto, Tamba?
Yes.
So yeah, from Kyoto. Yeah. Okay. So some of the other things we do is, of course, organic. The practice of organic supports the United Nations goals on many, many fronts. So I'm just going to move along quickly here. A big area, though, is reduce greenhouse gases. Through my doing this presentation, I realized that we actually reduce greenhouse gases in many ways by being organic. If you're not sure what greenhouse gases are, they're the gases responsible for climate change. So for example, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, those are all naturally in the environment, but with technology, the turn of the century, when the Industrial Revolution happened, there's too many greenhouse gases now in the atmosphere, causing the world to warm. And unfortunately, conventional farming is a big culprit, a big problem, because over a century now of conventional farming has been releasing chemical fertilizers and pesticides, or using them. And chemical fertilizers and pesticides release huge amounts of greenhouse gases into the air. Not only by just using it, but by making them, it produces greenhouse gases. One study in Nature magazine, it showed that there's 40.2% reduction of nitrous oxide emissions per hectare of organic compared to non-organic systems. So there's a huge difference if you choose organic or not. Another study from Yale University showed that the world's cultivated soils have lost between 50 and 70% of their original carbon stock, much of which has oxidized upon exposure to the air to become carbon dioxide. So you can see in this picture, large-scale conventional farms turn huge amounts of soil. They turn it even a couple times a year. Well, just by turning all that soil and leaving it exposed, you're releasing all of that carbon that was stored in the soil. So soil is a carbon sink. And if you're familiar with the whole concept of climate change, you'll know that like coral reefs are a carbon sink, trees are a carbon sink, like forests, and so is soil. And so it is shocking to see that up to 70% of their stock is gone now because of agriculture. So deep tilling, constantly leaving soil exposed is now, we need to change that. It can't be happening anymore. So instead of using these pesticides and chemicals and turning the soil so much, we use things like floating row cover. You can see here, so the bugs can't attack. It's more like prevent rather than react, because of course, pesticides is usually a reaction to bugs and pests coming in. So instead we use floating row covers. Our Rodale Institute had another study. This is amazing finding. Organic agriculture can remove from the air and sequester 7,000 pounds of carbon dioxide per acre per year. So that's a lot of carbon that we can put back into the soil where it belongs. But this is the potential that organics has in this fight against climate change. If you're interested in learning more about this, I highly recommend this movie. We watched it recently. It's on Netflix. It's called Kiss the Ground, and it talks about regenerative agriculture, which is what I've been talking about, kind of. It's like the idea of using agriculture to store carbon in the soil rather than like constantly releasing it. It's a sink, a carbon sink. And again, it's all about deep roots and that rhizosphere under the soil. This was a really great little, I would say it's like a good beginner's movie, like for beginners to understand this better. And they've got lots of famous people to get you excited about it on it as well.
Yes, we feel it's really important for the organic movement in this globally.
Please check it out on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay. So
this is about seedlings, and it's really hard to find organic seedlings in stores, especially in Japan, right? Maybe any countries, because usually seedlings, they use a lot of chemicals to grow faster. And also pesticides too. In the beginning, they put the pesticides and bugs doesn't attack. So we grow everything from the seed. Yeah, and then we make our own soil mix and start up the seedlings.
Okay. We also use some local transportation, like a network, a couple networks that we use. And it's really important to talk about this because they've supported the local organic movement a lot. You can see here, there's On the Slope and Kyoto Organic Action. And by working with these food distributors and networks in our area, we're building food sovereignty. This is another buzzword in the organic movement, which really just means build local food systems that are sustainable and self-sufficient. So Japan can feed Japan. You don't necessarily need to be bringing in food from other countries. Food sovereignty is, especially with climate change, especially with the problems with global development, it's really important to grow and provide food for your local area. You want to talk about Kyoto Organic Action?
Yeah, Kyoto Organic Action is started about maybe 5 years ago, and support organic farmers, especially for new farmers too. And they help connect farmers and buyers by delivering locally. And they are developing Japanese organic movement too. And this another company called Sakanotochi on the slope. And this two of them is our buyers, our vegetable buyers too. And Sakanotochi is distributor for the organic vegetables. And also they are helping young farmers. Now in Japan, it's still really low organic farmers, less than 1%, and mostly commercial farmers. So it's maybe 10 years now. From 10 years ago, they started a lot of happening in this kind of companies. New younger people started, and younger new farmers also starting organic farming too.
Including us. This is the company on the slope. They helped us find our farm here after the Fukushima disaster. So they had a project called the Hello Farm Project, which we now took the name Hello Farm Organics. And the project was to find farmers from the Tohoku area after the Fukushima disaster and move us south to sort of restart farms again. So these two organizations are really instrumental in supporting the organic movement in Japan. So we really wanted to spend a moment to tell you about them. Okay, so other things we do. So we host lots of volunteers in our gardens, as you can see. And we do this for many reasons. One, education, just to teach people about farming, but also you can't compare using your hands in the garden to a machine. Hand weeding and using your hands in the garden is always better because it doesn't compact the soil as much. Heavy machinery compacts the soil, produces lots of greenhouse gases, but humans, we just have such a softer, gentler touch in the garden. And it reduces the amount of fossil fuels that we need to work the land. So it helps also mitigate climate change. And we host lots of volunteers, like I said, through WOOF Japan. Down here, WOOFing is Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, and it's a global network of farms. And so if you go to a different country, you can volunteer on a WOOF farm, and we are WOOFing hosts, and it's an exchange, no money exchange. So in exchange for 6 hours of help in the garden, we provide food and shelter. So they can stay with us, we get to meet them, make new friends, and share knowledge in exchange for their help. And we love having woofers. We've been hosting for like almost 10 years. And I was a woofer as a young adult as well. And it was really wonderful. Zen, do you want to talk about Share the Love for Japan?
Yes, Share the Love Japan is started. Actually, that's a company in the United States. They wanted help the situation in Japan after the Fukushima disaster. So many the farmers like us, the organic farmers, they moved from that area to a safe place. And for the startup, they helped a lot. And also them employee in Japan, they like to their education for the employee to do what is organic farming. And so they come to volunteer and to learning the organic techniques and stuff.
Yeah. So they're also helping with the movement, connecting organic farmers together to share and learn together. And they come and help us every year, right?
Yes.
Another thing we do is I mentioned we save our own seed. And again, it's to build that resilience for local climate and pests. I think we're over 40 varieties that we save now. And in this photo, you can see beans, tomatoes. This is okra right here. And I love saving seed. It feels like an act of resistance against the global situation. It just feels good. It feels right. And it feels safe. Like, you know, you've got your own seed for next year, and it just feels really good.
Some countries, they can do it, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've met woofers from like Argentina. They weren't allowed to save their own tomato seeds. Now, this was a few years ago. I don't know if that's changed, but at the time they said they weren't allowed. They had to purchase controlled, genetically modified seeds, tomato seeds. We were shocked because I think aren't tomatoes from South America originally? Like, it's wild to hear this stuff. Just some more seeds that we save. This beautiful red one here, this is Goya. It's a bitter melon. We have tomato seeds, so we save a lot. And we also mentioned we'd like to train future farmers. And of course, you know, sharing what you know, training for the future, food security, food sovereignty is really important. Some of the woofers who've come through have become farmers. We've had apprentices. You can see in the photos, actually, these are 3 of our apprentices that we've had over the years. Chie-san here, she is now farming her own farm in Kyoto as well. And so of course, if we connect it to the United Nations goals, that's going to support the zero hunger, well-being, and sustainable cities and communities. All right. And then finally, this is our last connection to the United Nations goals, is about food waste. It is a pet peeve. It's a really big problem for us about how much waste there is in the world with food. This was an amazing article in National Geographic about food waste, and it said that according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, we squander or waste enough food globally, 2.9 trillion pounds a year, which is 1/3 of the planet's food production. We waste 1/3 of the food produced globally every year. That could feed all the rest of the humans that are suffering and don't have food right now. Easily, twice over, it could feed them. So we have worked very hard to have no food waste. You can see in the pictures, we have some funny shaped carrots with legs or daikon radish with legs, but they're delicious, they're nutritious. They just may not be the most beautiful vegetable you've ever seen. But Zendu-san is really good at finding buyers.
And also we use a lot too. Yeah, actually only good shape vegetable we sell, and then all bad shape vegetables we eat. Yeah.
But we do have some restaurants like juicing restaurants that will buy we call them perfectly imperfect or B grade vegetables because there's nothing wrong with them. They just happen to look a little funny. The standards are out of control around the world.
That's the whole world problem. Yeah. You know, everybody look good one, look nice one. People want it. Right?
They want perfect. Yeah. All the same shaped apples.
So we call we call this one?
Perfectly imperfect. So yeah, please read it if you're interested in reading more about that. There's a great article there. So back to what we originally concluded about being organic farmers. Is basically small-scale organic farms help mitigate climate change. They build food security for communities, and they support a more sustainable, regenerative approach to agriculture. And it feels good to be a part of that, but it also means we have to educate consumers. We have to train more farmers because this organic farming is part of the solution for climate change, is part of sustainable development. And we feel really passionate about that. And of course, this sustainable regenerative approach, it really does, it's all about like sequestering the carbon in the soil as a carbon sink. So that's a huge impact for climate change. Well, we have a lot of references which have hyperlinks. When we share this file, this presentation as a PDF, you'll be able to go through and see these references and do further reading yourself. So at this moment, I think what we'll do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to some of the questions that I've seen. So I see we're okay for time. We have some time to answer some of the questions in the chat room, but I'd like to open it up to our attendees. If you have more questions, please type it in the chat, not the question and answer, the Q&A box, but the chat box, okay? So in the chat box, make sure that it's panelists and attendees can see. Okay, how do you control pests and diseases? Do you buy vegetable seeds? Okay, so we did talk already quite a bit about how we do protect, we control pests and diseases. The row covers that you could see was a big help. Of course, if you keep healthy soil, then if you build healthy soil, that actually naturally acts as a pest control and a disease control. The crop rotation we talked about is also really important for disease control. So if you plant, for example, like we had aburamushi aphids problem in one of our beds this year. So if you kept growing the same, which was baby salad mix, if we keep growing that year after year after year, the aburamushi aren't going to go away. They'll just keep staying there. So the crop rotation is a very important component of disease management. And then the seeds that we save. If you are saving your own seed from the healthiest, strongest, no disease-free plants, they will have the genetic potential to fight off disease on their own. So saving seed is really important as well. And then he asked, this is Tako Inamori-san. He asked, do you buy vegetable seeds? Yes, sometimes we do because we don't save all of our own seed, right?
Yes, but we buy only heritage seed.
Heirloom heritage or organic seed as well,
seed.
Yeah. So yeah, we do sometimes. For example, like squash is really hard to save your own seed because the different squash plants and even cucumber will cross-pollinate and they'll produce some strange hybrid that you can't eat.
Yeah, if we're gonna save all the seed, we need a huge kind of land.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of space between the crops to save. But some seeds are really easy to save, like tomatoes. You can grow 2 different kinds of tomatoes side by side and still save the seed from both plants.
Also, all the kind of the beans.
Oh yeah, beans are easy. Just let it dry on the plant. You can do that. Okay. Aoki-san here. I am living in an apartment and I am wondering that our trash and peels and vegetables. Oh, I think the question is about what to do with your kitchen waste in your apartment. Yeah, good question, actually. Because if you don't have property to compost, it's really hard. But actually, you can do composting in your house with worms, if you don't mind having worms in your house.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, there's a small red worms called red wigglers. You can order them online. And you just create like, you can use a Rubbermaid or a Tupperware and put them in there and put kitchen scraps and they will eat the compost and make it into soil. So that's one option you can do.
But maybe you need a bigger one.
Yeah, a bigger box. Yeah.
It's too bad in Japan, it's still not the trash system. It's not separated compost and trash and stuff. Like Canada, America, they separate the compost bins and stuff. Someday I hope in Japan gonna have happening like that.
Yeah, because a lot of people live in apartments and you can't compost in your apartment. So it would be great. You know, you could write letters to your government officials, everyone, say, we need curbside composting for everybody in the cities. Okay. I found the compost for the person who live alone, so I will do that. Oh, good. So this person, Aoki-san, said that they found out about composting alone, so that's great. Another person, Hina S, says, can bacteria survive in water Yes, bacteria can survive in water. And it says here, is it allowed to label organic if a farmer inputs the products of compost, including non-organic veggies? Okay, so that's two different questions. Bacteria can live in water for sure. In fact, you've probably heard of like people getting like, if you drink water that has bacteria, bad bacteria in it, you can get really sick actually if it's a bad bacteria. But if you make the compost tea I was talking about, that's a beneficial bacteria you can then put in your garden. Okay.
Do you know the drink, the North American famous drink?
Kombucha.
Kombucha, that's a mushroom, the bacteria drink.
Yeah.
That's a good bacteria for your body.
And then, okay, the question was, if you put non-organic things in your compost, can you still call it organic? Actually, no, you can't. So that's why we are not a certified organic farm. We're not certified because actually our fields are too close to the neighbors and they spray. And sometimes the spray comes over into our fields. And it's a harsh reality for farms in Japan, especially because spraying chemical pesticides is very common. We have rice fields right beside our hatake, our vegetable garden. So we couldn't be certified organic even if we tried.
Also that in Japan, the small scale farmers, it's really difficult to get this certified system. It's a JA, it's a Japan agriculture. They control everything, those kind of stuff. So all my friends too, they don't have that certified small farmers. It's a lot of money, and every year they have to pay a lot of money for the check the soil and stuff. And then, but fortunately in Japan, we trust each other, Japanese culture. So not too many people lies about, oh, this is, we don't use any pesticides. This is all organically growing, and not too many people doubt it.
I would say the movement is about 10 years behind North America. Like in North America, if you say organic, you have to be certified or you can get charged. Like by the police. So if you like I don't think we'll be able to call ourselves Hello Farm Organics when we move to Canada because unless we're certified organic. So to answer the question, if you use non-organic materials on an organic farm, you can't be certified organic. So it's not technically organic.
Also, I don't want against about organic like label, organic certified organic. But reality is in Japan, the standard organic, the standard level is really like not like a North American standard. Example, like a seed, in Japan, you can use not like a heirloom heritage seed, and even not organic seed. Yeah, and then even the seedlings.
Yeah, so the standards are a little more relaxed in Japan. In fact, we sometimes get seeds that are coated with like a purple fungicide. A fungicide is to keep the fungus and mushrooms and what's the word, mold from growing on the seed because it's so humid in Japan that the seeds would die really fast when the package is opened. So even organic products in Japan can sometimes, like the standards are more relaxed because it's just a different situation. It's a different, system in Japan.
So we put the label, not only the soil mark that I explained, we grow everything from the seed and we don't use any pesticides and we don't use any fertilizer, chemical fertilizer. I just explain on my vegetable.
On our labels. Yeah. Okay. So let's see another question. As for the management, is it full-time farming or part-time farming? Do you want to answer that?
Yes, I'm. Yeah, that's full-time. Full-time farming.
Zenji-san's full-time. I have been part-time for many years because I was teaching as well. But we've always had 1 or 2 volunteer woofers. The woofers are the volunteers we were talking about. So they kind of made up for when I'm not here. So really our farm needs about 2 full-time people constantly to maintain our garden.
Especially summertime is really, really busy and it's hard work. Maybe between, I would say between May to November, but winter time is a little bit slow down. And especially this weather, we have a lot of snow outside and we cannot walk in outside. We have only greenhouse.
Yeah, yeah, we have a lot of snow here. Okay, Aliana Morales is asking, can these practices be applied in other areas of Japan or even in other countries, locations, and temperatures? Are the requirements the same? I think she wrote that during the soil component, the soil part, when I was explaining about bacteria in the soil. And the answer is yes. These are universal concepts that you can do anywhere in the world. The big challenge is if you're in a very hot desert kind of place, the soil can be so dry that bacteria doesn't really grow as well as in a wet place like Japan. So you have to think about how to protect the water in the soil. And what you can do is put a lot of, it's called mulch. Yeah, mulch is like to cover the soil with protection. It could be weeds, leaves, straw, even plastic. Some people use plastic. Or just let things constantly grow in the soil. Never rip everything out, like have things growing. Because the more you have roots and things in the soil, the more water it will hold. And then the better the bacteria and the fungi will survive. So yes, all the concepts we talked about are universal. You can do them in any country, in any place. But if it's Hokkaido, then of course the winter is a little harder to grow, grow things, but you can, during the summer, of course, it's the same concept. How big are your gardens where you grow vegetables? Yeah, how many tambo do we have?
We have like a 30 meter square.
30 by 30 meters.
Yeah, about 100 square feet, right? No. 900 square feet. Yeah. And we have 2 of them, maybe.
2 of those. But if it were like Japanese size tambo.
Tambo, yeah, tan, we call it ittan. Ittan. Yeah, ittan, nitan. And we have about nitan, 2 tan.
So like 2 rice fields, about 2 rice fields, which are quite big.
So 1 rice field is about 30 meter by 30 meter.
Yeah, but we also have greenhouses. We also have another small garden.
Yeah, but we kind of reduced.
Yeah. But I would say altogether, it's like just over an acre if you're talking acres in North American standard sizes. But we actually have many little gardens everywhere, so it's hard to say exactly the exact size. Okay. You mentioned that you host trips and educate people and children and also have apprentices to manage farms. Can you elaborate further? How do you do this? Do you have connections with universities who share the same kind of vision? No, we don't have connections with universities, except now Okayama University. But the apprentices, basically, sometimes the woofers, or the volunteers, will ask to come back and be our apprentice. And we've hosted several apprentices that way. Other apprentices were local people, like Chie-san. She is a local woman who wanted to learn the local climate and how to grow locally. And they don't manage the farm for us. We're the managers. Actually, Zenji is the main manager. But they help us and in exchange for knowledge. So our apprentices might come for like 1 day a week or a couple days a week, or just a month, might come for a couple months. And just in exchange for their help, we teach them everything we know as much as we can in that time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when I was an apprentice, because I apprenticed for 3 years in Canada, on 3 different farms. I was able to make a little bit of money because I wasn't volunteering. I was a farm paid helper, but it was for 6 months. So it was like a full like employment. And I was paid, it was a very small amount, but they provided me with a place to stay and food from the garden and a little bit of a salary to just help me because I would go back to university in between my apprentices.
Some organic farm in Japan also does those kind of system too. So each organic farms are different.
Yeah. We've never had a full season apprentice, like every day. But the local woman, Chie-san, who was apprenticing with us, she would come once a week for the whole day, every week. So that was another way to do it. So you just be creative with it. Depends what people want out of the experience, you know. Okay. Where can we bring from soil for compost for the living alone? And oh, we already answered that, the apartment thing. Okay. How big is a lot? Regarding my question about the size of the garden, how big is a lot that can be used for the kinds of vegetables that you grow? Well, if, you know, even one Japanese hatake, tambo, is quite big. Like that's a lot to manage for one person. But you can grow a lot of food, even in just like, you know, 5 meters by 10 meters. You can grow a lot of food in a small area. But for business, you want at least a couple rice field, like tambo. Yeah.
Yeah, at least in Japan, we call it at least per person is needs 5 tons.
5 tons?
5 tons.
Which is rice fields.
5 rice field size.
To make
to live, to make business.
But we have a lot less than that.
Yes. Yeah, because we do that. We have a really good soil and we do the special techniques, you know, like a companion and stuff. So so that's a book you shows that small scale.
Small scale organic farms. Well, I guess we do intensive gardening. So like one bed is never empty. Every single hole in like a space is used growing something. So we're growing on a smaller scale, but it's more intensive. There's no wasted space ever. Whereas if you're growing on like a larger scale, you might have like a few beds that are empty for a while, or even one whole field that's kind of like laying there doing nothing. We don't have that. It's one crop finishes and we put the next one in. Or we put 3 things together. Like we might have basil growing under the tomato plants. So that's the companion plants I was telling you about. Yeah. So it's really intensive farming. And we're not rich. We're not making tons of money.
And also we don't use a tractor. That's a huge difference too.
Yeah.
For maintain the garden, it's a lot of things we have to take care. And many farmers are using big tractors, but we're thinking about that gas.
And also compacting the soil. If you drive on the soil a lot, it really compacts the soil and it's not good for soil health. So we actually try to avoid using a tractor always in our garden. But like I was saying, we make enough money to survive, but we're not making a ton of money. It's not our goal. As you saw, it's not our goal.
The main purpose is self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient, yeah. Let's see. Do neighboring farmers accept the organic farming? I'm wondering if they complain sometimes, like the pests come from your field. Yeah, good question, actually, really good. Do they complain, Zendu? Do neighbors complain about us?
No, maybe opposite.
We complain about them. Maybe.
Yeah, if you looks good, if you're taking care very well, never complain about those kind of stuff. But if you just leave the weed grow high and stuff, never will complain. Just important is taking care of the own garden. And no one complains that.
I suppose if you allowed pests to get out of control, like some bugs, like let's say aburamushi, if you allowed the bugs to get out of control and didn't try to manage it organically, maybe they would complain because yeah, they would spread to the next field. But we grow really intensively and we're managing that as best that we can. And the neighbors can see that. They see that, you know, we work really hard and it's not just letting it go and not taking care.
Yeah, I feel everybody appreciate for the growing organically. We don't do any pollution to the rivers.
Yeah, yeah, I would say for the most part, they actually appreciate that we're taking care of the land, not polluting. Yeah,
to the,
and it's healthy.
So, the one thing's like the commercial farmers, you cannot see, but it's a lot of pesticides in the ground and also chemical fertilizer in the ground, and finally that's melted, going to the river. So going to river and going to ocean, and those all the pollutions finally come back to your land too.
Yeah, and yeah, actually, the neighbors always seem pleased that we're growing organic, and we share lots of vegetables with them. We do exchange. So if you build your relationships with your neighbors, you shouldn't have a problem, you know. Okay, next question. Does organic farming practice differ depending on the scale or of the farm? Like, can we apply the same practice in Japan and in Australia? Yeah, good question. Good question. I mean, it will change depending on the scale. You saw in one of the pictures, we have these like covers on the rows. It's called floating row cover, and that protects the plants from the bugs coming in. Well, I suppose if you're growing 5 acres of cabbage, it's going to be really hard to cover all 5 acres with these row covers. But then you have to ask yourself, how are you going to manage those pests? Like how organically, because you can't spray pesticides. So then there's a question about scale. So if you can grow more intensely, then you can cover all of them and get a better yield. So some of the techniques are transferable to larger scale organics, but some are not. And I want to mention, I think there's this misconception that if you're growing food, you don't want to have any bugs, no pests, don't lose any crops to nature. But actually, if we change our mentality and we think, well, okay, I'm going to lose about 10% or 20% to nature this year, then it's okay if you lose some of your cabbages to some rabbits or to the cabbage moth. It's okay because we have this mentality in farming that we can't lose any of the crops, right? Like you have to save it all.
Yeah, but impossible.
But it's actually impossible. And that's driving the pesticide use. It's driving that. But actually we live in harmony with nature. Like I said, one of our goals is to live in harmony with nature. So, you know, this year we had mogura. What's mogura in English again?
It's a mole.
A mole. You know, little moles. They're like a mouse, but they have a different mouth, and these moles were getting in and they ate all the roots of our Napa cabbage. One day, every day, a new Napa cabbage would fall over. One every day. But we realized the mogura lives here, the mole lives here. So we will try and save that Napa cabbage, sell it if we can, or make pickles, and try and keep the mogura out. But we're not going to go in and spray and kill all the mogura, all these pets, these animals, because they live there too. So it's a change in mentality a little bit about what's more important, that you make tons of money or that you live a healthy and like sustainable, environmentally friendly life. So I guess, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We lose every year.
Yeah, we have also many animals. We are quite wild area we live in here. So we have deers and wild boars.
So inoshishi, boars. Oh man.
Every year they attack our garden. We lose something, but
yeah.
Sometimes we feel okay.
We have to like accept that, and that's another reason to grow a good variety, many different things, because if you do lose one bed of carrots, well, you probably have another bed of carrots in a different location, or maybe different root crops like potatoes that do very well. So you try and have a good variety, a biodiversity of vegetables, and then you'll always have something to sell and to eat as well. Okay. So the question about applying the same practices in Japan and other countries, yes, definitely. Do you use small agricultural machinery such as a weeding machine or hand tractor, or only sickle and hoe?
Yeah, hand tractor.
Yeah.
Tiller.
Rototiller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a small one. That's the biggest machine we have. And of course, we have the weed whacker, weed trimmer.
How do you say rototiller in Nihongo?
Kanriki.
Kanriki. So it turns the soil. But again, even with that, we try to use it as little as possible because we want to keep the soil structure in health, in good structure. But yeah, that's the biggest machine we have actually. The weed whackers, cut the weeds. We have a lawn mower as well to cut the weeds as well. But yeah, everything else is by hand and like hand tools. Yeah, it's hard work, that's for sure. Then I see one more question here. My question is more specific about farming oats because I saw in the presentation, I have been researching the growing of oats in Japan. How are you able to grow oats? Yeah, good question.
Actually, my friend grow this area too.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
In Keihoku?
In Kyoto. I think everywhere you can grow oats.
So you can. Oats. I didn't know you could.
Actually, this is also some people use as a green manure.
Oh yes, yeah. So oats are great as a green manure. You let it grow not to full maturity, just like a certain height, and then you chop it up and turn it into the soil, and it adds carbon and humus to the soil. But apparently, you can also grow the grain, right? To harvest the grain. Yes. I didn't know that. Okay. That's I think all the questions. Did I miss any questions, Judy or Kambara Sensei? Did you see? I think I got them all.
Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you very much, Eva-san and Zenryu-san. We are very happy to have you here for this special program. And your speech was very wonderful and informative. Does anybody have any question?
Any further questions, you can type it into the chat box. Judy or Kambara Sensei, do you have any further questions that we can clarify that maybe was unclear as we were speaking?
Nothing that was unclear. I do have a question that I didn't write in the chat box. I was wondering, you usually have a lot of volunteers, woofers, and apprentices. And I was wondering how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected that, and how is it? I can imagine it probably has, and how much has that increased your workload on the farm this year?
That's a really good question.
You want to answer?
No, please.
Well, actually, because I had been teaching up until last June, and my contract finished, we were supposed to actually move to Canada last June, but because of coronavirus, we decided to stay another full growing season. So actually, I've been farming full-time with Zenryu-san. So the two of us full-time has meant we haven't needed any other helpers at this moment. but also the borders shut down for a while. So there were no other helpers or volunteers able to come from outside the country. Now, there were some local people who expressed some interest, but we weren't really comfortable with like the physical distancing and everything to have other volunteers here when we could manage ourselves. So we haven't had any help since last June or before that, maybe since last June.
Last whole last year we didn't have the helpers. So even apprentice we don't accept it. So yes, we had really hard time.
Yeah, it's been hard. Not only with the help, but coronavirus has affected everybody in different ways. And for farming, like restaurants had to shut down for a while, or just people aren't going to restaurants as much. So our buyers are actually not buying as much. Well, some of them are not buying as much as they used to.
That decrease actually decreased a lot.
Yeah. So we've lost some sales that way, definitely. But also, because we hadn't anticipated being here, we were late starting our farm this year because we thought we were leaving Japan last June. So we were last minute seeding for the summer vegetables. So it affected us that way too. We lost some income with that. Yeah. I see another question here from Minami Aoki-san. Do you know your woofer do after returning to their countries? Yeah, sometimes the woofers will email us and let us know what's happening. And we've had several start their own farms. We've got a woman in Malaysia who works in the organic food like industry. She works for a distributor now.
And do you remember that from the Portuguese, the couple?
Oh yeah, the Portuguese couple, they started their own farm as well. And another guy from Portugal, he has a goat farm or something now. So he's also farming. And a couple of our woofers have come back to learn more about what's happening. Like one of them from France, Tim, he now runs it's a micro brewery, like a bar, but because of his time with us, he tries to source organic, locally produced beers from around France. So what a cool way to influence local economies, local industries. But definitely we've had some start farms and we share knowledge all the time. We're constantly back and forth.
Yeah, we have many woofers. How many woofers we had in the past 10 years?
Probably 100. Probably 100 woofers over the past 10 years. Yeah. Yeah. And
yes, we have a really good, many good stories with woofers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to exchange knowledge and lots from Japan too, lots of Japanese woofers. So if, you never know if we're still here next summer and you want to come woofing, let us know. Can come help out.
Still we have a difficult situation, COVID-19.
Yeah.
Demo questions.
Yes, Junko Obayashi-san. Oh, no, sorry.
Okay.
Can we ask for contact information? How can we reach contact people in the farm? I assume you mean us. It's in the references at the end of this slideshow. We are called Hello Farm Organics. Here, I'll just type it in here. You can see our email, our website is called hellofarmorganics.com. And we are also on Facebook at the same name, Hello Farm Organics. And our email is hellofarmorganics@gmail.com. Super easy. Another question was, I wonder if or how you are influencing your neighbor farmers in the ways of organic farming. Actually, I think we are influencing the neighbors a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes we don't know, but do you want to talk about the collars?
Yes.
Yeah. Some neighbors, should I mention that?
Yes, please.
So there is a small caterpillar called Yoto, which is
a nekiri, that's a cutworm.
Cutworm. They live in the soil and they will, like, let's say this is your tomato plant. they come up and they chew right through the stem and the whole plant dies. Like, it's awful. There's such a problem, these yotomushi. So one way to protect your plant is to create a collar. So you create like this, and then you plant, like, it's too big.
It's okay.
You put the plant, protect it with a collar all the way around like this. And we literally use paper, newspaper like this. And we put our plants in like that. And we put the soil up to here. So soil up to here, your plant's sticking out, and the yotomushi can't climb up somehow. They can't climb up this side of, it's called a collar. And we started doing that years ago. I think one of our first years here. So all of our seedlings go around, we put collars on them with newspaper. And we started seeing it in some of the neighbors' gardens a few years after that. So they were asking, Nanikore, like, what are you doing? Why are you putting those things around your plants? And we said, well, we don't want to spray for yotomushi. So we're using organic materials, or like it can decompose, and natural materials, and it works. Once the plant gets really big and strong, the stem is too thick and the yoto can't chew it anymore. And then the collar just disappears because it's newspaper, and newspaper can decompose. So we started seeing our neighbors using the same technique. So that was kind of nice. It felt good, like, oh, yay, they're not spraying as much now.
Yeah, this neighbors is mostly the house growing for the house members. So small kind of gardens.
Yeah.
So also they don't want to use a pesticides for themselves. So they like to know those kind of technique too, probably.
Also, we grow all our own seedlings from seed, and we sometimes have extra, and they all love to get our seedlings. So we give them as presents. We're like, here's 5 extra tomatoes, or some extra zucchini, or some extra, eggplant, and they're so happy to get our vegetables. Any other way we influence? Yeah, I think there's other ways we influence them, I'm sure, but we don't always know about it. Okay, are there any other questions? I see that was good. We got a couple extra there. If you have any other questions, please type them in. Well, it's been an hour and 50 minutes. Thank you for sitting so long, everybody. Kanbara Sensei, thank you for hosting us, and we feel really privileged and honored that you asked us to do this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your wonderful speech. Yeah, so as you told us now, we already spent 1 hour and 50 minutes. So it's about time to close this session. Again, thank you very much, Eva-san and Zenryu-san.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
For participants, we will upload the video of today's program, and also speaking about the slides, we also upload the PDF. So it's time to close. Have a nice evening, everybody, and see you soon again. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks to everybody.
Bye-bye. Stay safe, everyone.
Be organic.
Organic. Be safe.